Among those mourning the death of Charlie Kirk, Pope Leo at the Vatican. The Holy Father sharing his condolences in a private meeting with the new U.S. ambassador to the Vatican, saying he is lifting up Kirk, his wife, and his children in prayer. Well, tonight, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, many Americans taking spiritual inventory, asking not just what the loss means politically, but what it means for our faith and our future. In a moment when the country feels pulled between peace and political violence, some are looking to history, even to Pope Leo's teachings, for guidance on how to navigate such turbulent times. And we are joined now by Vatican correspondent Colm Flynn of EWTN News. Colm, thank you so much for coming on to talk more about this. It's good to see you. And what did we hear from the Pope on this topic? What was his message following Charlie Kirk's assassination?
Yeah, good to see you too, Natasha, and good evening from the Eternal City. This was a meeting in the Apostolic Palace when the new U.S. ambassador to the Holy See, Brian Birch, was presenting his credentials to Pope Leo XIV. And after that meeting, the Vatican confirmed that Pope Leo said to him that he was praying for Charlie, for his family, his wife, his children. And also he went on to say that he expressed concern about political violence at the moment in the United States. And he spoke of the need to refrain from rhetoric that would lead to polarization and division rather than dialogue. And of course, this is something that even from the very beginning of his pontificate just a few months ago, Pope Leo has been calling for again and again: dialogue and peace and bringing two sides together.
Yeah, as you were just saying, Pope Leo stressing nonviolence and dialogue over polarization. Tell me more about this, especially in this highly divisive moment we find ourselves in.
Yeah, and Natasha, interesting, you know, the Pope is the pontiff, and the Latin word pontiff actually means bridge builder. That's the job of the Pope, to bridge this world and the next world, but also the people here on earth, all Christians of goodwill and people on this planet. And in this interview we're going to get into in a moment, the first interview that he did with the Catholic publication called Crux, he talked about trying to bring world leaders together and how that was becoming increasingly difficult to do in today's day and age. He also, as well, interestingly, talked about the United Nations. He said, unfortunately, it seems to be generally recognized that the United Nations, at least at this moment, has lost its ability to bring people together on multilateral kinds of issues. He said we need to overcome the violence and the hatred that is so dividing us more and more. He went on to say we live in times when polarization seems to be the word of the day, but it's not helping anybody.
And you mentioned Pope Leo's first interview this week. This was really our first time hearing his stance on major topics like LGBTQ issues as well. What did we learn about that in particular?
It was a fascinating interview that went on for over 3 hours, Natasha, where he spoke about everything from his childhood there in Chicago to controversy in China, the China-Vatican deal that he said will continue for the time being, but on issues like the Church's relationship with members of the LGBTQ community. When he was asked did he have a plan, he said, I don't really have a plan at the moment. And then he went on to say that he recalled something that a cardinal from the eastern part of the world said to him before he became Pope, that the Western world is fixated and obsessed with sexuality, is what he said. He said a person's identity, for some people, is all about their sexual identity. He said everyone is invited into the church, everyone. And the Pope said that he doesn't invite someone in because they are a certain way or they are not a certain way. But then when he was asked about those who wish to change the doctrine of the church, so the sacrament of marriage, he said that he didn't see that changing in the near future. He had no intention of changing it, that it would remain the sacrament of marriage between a man, a woman, and the family unit. The traditional family unit is how he called it, would be man, woman, and children.
And what about women? I mean, the Pope also highlighting that the role of women in the church continues to develop. So what does that mean? What changes or opportunities do you foresee in leadership for women under Pope Leo?
I think it'll be along the same lines as Pope Francis's pontificate because, well, at the very beginning of answering that, Natasha, he said, just like Pope Francis, I want to have more women in leadership roles within the church and helping with the day-to-day running of the church. He said women have so many gifts that can really lend themselves to the church and the beauty of the church. But just like Pope Francis, he separated the running of the organization and institution of the church to the sacrament, let's say, of ordination to the priesthood. priesthood. Again, he said women for the priesthood or the diaconate, he said that would not be changing.
All right, Colm Flynn, I always appreciate the analysis and the time. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natasha.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.